Servus and welcome to another episode of the Pro Hockey Pod, episode 13. Buzzing along here. This week we got a buddy of mine, a guy I trained with for many years back when I was playing. He's still playing over in Italy right now, but I got to know him pretty well. And for the listeners out there, like definitely not your ideal path. A lot of obstacles I would say throughout his career, a lot of people doubting him. And just to say it bluntly, he's still playing and made it farther than a lot of the people who were maybe pegged ahead of him at the time he was rising up through the junior. But welcome to the podcast, Colin Furlong.
Yeah, thanks, Harry. Yeah, thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
So we always start off just kind of where you grew up and stuff. So you grew up in Cambridge. Is that where you kind of first learned to like love the game of hockey?
Yeah, I like probably most people started, skating around 2, 3 years old, and then start playing hockey as early as they let you. Trying out. I played forward defense for a little bit, and then couldn't tell you exactly what made me want to be a goalie, but just decided. I don't know if the gear looked cool or something like that, but yeah, grew up playing Cambridge. I played my whole minor hockey career there, the AAA system, until I believe major midget. So that was kind of the beginning. It was a little bit weird. Not really anyone else in my family plays hockey. I have two brothers and a sister. My brothers tried it, never really got into it. My dad's a big fan, but never played competitively, just with his buddies for fun. So I'm the only one that really got into it, say at a competitive level.
Well, first I want to say about Cambridge, that rink that you guys have, like that famous rink, I cannot
Galt Arena.
Galt
Yeah.
Arena, exactly. Like I was gonna say Goth Arena, but that wasn't right. Like that's probably got to be one of the more famous arenas in Ontario. Like a lot of history there. Like I went and watched a couple games there. Like it's really, kind of got that character to it. So I just wanted to say that. Like that must have been cool.
Yeah,
Growing up
it's a
playing in
cool
that.
little almost full bowl, and not huge capacity, but I believe it's the oldest operating arena in the world. It's been redone probably countless times, but yeah, you start to play there a little bit more when you're, let's say, major bantam, minor midgets, and then my first year junior and junior B was our home rink, so it's pretty cool. You play minor midget, major midget. You have your dressing room there and play all your games there, and then so you're real excited to jump up to the junior B team. That's the best level in the city, I guess. And so it's kind of a thing you always want to do, and you get to move into the junior room, and that's your rink. So it was a pretty fun place to play. Always enjoyed it.
Always a cool feeling when you make it up to junior and you get your own room with the stalls and stuff. But taking it back a little, like you mentioned, you weren't quite sure what drew you to the goaltender position. I've always said for me it was I just wanted my helmet painted. So that was it for me. But like once you started, switching to goalie, like did you kind of feel like right away, like, hey, like, I'm comfortable here? Not to say that you weren't comfortable as like a defenseman or forward.
Yeah, actually, a weird story. So the first year that travel hockey was available, um, I had always been a forward, and I remember I told my dad, I said, I want to be a goalie, and he said, well, let's try it out. That this is still house league at the time when you're 6, 7 years old. So try it out a few times. If you like it, then okay. If that's what you're into. So we had the first year of travel hockey tryouts, and tried out as a goalie. And the coach, he was coaching around those house league leagues, and I ended up getting called in after, and he said, "Okay, here's the deal. I've seen you play as a forward. You can either make the team as a forward or be like an AP as a goalie." And for me, it wasn't even a question. I said, "No, no, I want to be a goalie. I'll AP, and I'll try again next year." And next year, I tried out, and I played until I was, I guess, 17 for the same organization, and So it was obviously strong enough that right away, I was offered a spot on a team I wanted to be on, and I said, no, no, I'll call me up if you need me, and I'll try again next year.
That's crazy to me. I have like the exact same
Yeah,
story. When I switched, like I was a D, and then the one summer when I turned 10, I was like, hey, I want to be a goalie. My parents had always made a rule like when you're 10, you can change if you want. And I changed and I went to tryouts that year. And the coach again called, like kind of like you called me and was like, hey, if you go back to being a defenseman right now, I'll take you on the AAA team. But if you're a goalie, you're going down to AA. And I remember like hard decision because you've known all those kids, they're all your friends, playing the highest level, etc. But I was so passionate about no, I want to be a goalie and took the year to go to AA and played a lot of games. And then next year ended up making that AAA team. But that's funny that you
yeah,
basically had a similar
yeah,
story.
exact same thing, eh? Crazy.
Um, One other thing I want to ask you about with just minor hockey in Cambridge before we transition to your junior career is, you guys obviously Cambridge, they played in the Alliance League there. I'm a product of the SCTA, so with like Burlington, Oakville, all that stuff. Was there a lot of like were you guys in like a lot of tournaments with these teams? Like how in your experience were the differences between these leagues? Like it was one league kind of had a little bit more edge, or you just played at home because it was your hometown team?
Yeah, I always played there because they had some pretty strict rules. I don't know if it's across the board, but for the Alliance was just based on address. So I knew a few guys that if they wanted to switch teams or even leagues, like a lot of guys wanted to go GTHL because it was definitely a higher quality overall of teams and players. But you'd have to like have an address. So some people would move, some people's families would move. We always just said, like at my age at least, wasn't we weren't very strong team, let's say. So I don't know. I talked to my parents a little bit. There was no chance for us to move, but they just said, no, you're getting a lot of shots here. Uh, it'll help you in the end. You see some of the strong teams. Yeah, the goalies, they win a lot. They win championships, but they're getting 10, 12 shots a game. Um, I think for me at this time, like that did pay off, like getting 40, 50 a game as a kid every year. You get the reps, you also learn maybe some mental things that it's not always going to go your way. There's going to be tough times. So for me, it kind of had one chance to go to the GTHL when I was, well, I couldn't tell you the age, but for my parents, it just didn't make sense. So they talked to me about it, then we kind of just decided I'll stay here, and once you get, you can make a junior team, then your options open up a little bit. You're not necessarily stuck to where you're born or where you're living at the time. And so yeah.
That's I had I believe it was Kevin Carr, another goalie I had on before, and we talked about that too. Like just the difference between, hey, go play on a good team, get 12, 15 shots a game. Yeah, you're gonna win a lot. It's gonna look good on your resume, I guess, but at that age, like, geez, resumes aren't really that important. But or you can go to like maybe a weaker team and like you said, you're getting 30, 40 shots a night, which is helping you improve because that's where playing games is where you really make improvements. And then also, like you said, you're going to go through some games where you're going to give up 7, 8, and that's like kind of like that mental toughness, training yourself to, hey, like it's not always going to be my night, but how do we come back next game, or how do I come back next period and be a bit stronger? And I tell so many goalies this, that it's, if you can go somewhere where you can get more shots, especially minor hockey, junior, it's going to benefit you 5, 10 years down the road.
Yeah, and especially like you said, at that age when you're 10, 11, 12, resume doesn't mean much. I've seen guys that were studs from 7 years old to 14 years old, and then everyone else catches up. And come like you said, before OHL is, at least in our area, Southern Ontario, is always, that's the big thing. That's the benchmark. Like I got to get there. And I knew a few kids that were, like I said, 10 years a stud, and the last 2 years major bantam, minor midget. Maybe other guys grew bigger, guys developed really quickly, and all of a sudden it's a whole new batch. So I think you're much better off to get the experience and, like you said, learn how to lose, learn how to bounce back, um, learn how to keep yourself up and not go in a downward spiral.
Hmm.
And I think it definitely pays off later on, or when you're trying to make a jump to a new league, whether it be minor to junior or junior to pro or whatever it is.
And then after Cambridge minor hockey, so you eventually made the jump to, as you said, first you played for the hometown team there in the GOJHL, and then the next season you were in Guelph. And I wanted to ask you, at this point, so I think you're around 17, 18 years old at this point playing junior B. Is your mindset, hey, like my goal is to become a starter in this league and then go to school like NCAA, or is it still in the back of your head like, hey, if I can have maybe 1 or 2 good years, like maybe an OHL team is gonna call me? Because that's always the debate as kids, right? Like, do you go major junior? Do you go NCAA?
Yeah, that was for me. I don't know if I was maybe a bit hard-headed or naive, possibly. So of course, my first goal was to make the junior B team and be the starter. So I played 1 year, like you said, for Cambridge Winterhawks. Um, it was a bit of a 50-50, and we ended up getting an older goalie. I think he was maybe 20 years old, who had played, was a good goalie, good starter in the league. So then he took over a little bit. But by the end, I'd say that I kind of took the main role and had a pretty good year. We were not one of the best teams, but overall had a really good first year. Was My goal was still always, like you said, to just put your head down, work hard. If you're good, someone will notice. If you're on a bad team, if you're on a good team, if you're good, someone will take notice. And I had actually a walk on after that year tryout with Guelph Storm in the OHL. Um, Same thing. Went to camp. I was excited, but it didn't work out. So I thought, no, okay, I go back, play for my hometown. Went back and they said, oh, hey, we didn't really think you were going to come back. We thought, you had a good chance to make it. So we traded you to Guelph, to the junior B team. So that was a bit of a tough one for me. I wasn't really big on it, or didn't expect it, let's say. And then I went there the next year, and same thing. Not a super strong team, but had a lot of fun, and actually had a really really good year. And but at no time was I thinking I'd like to go NCAA or school. It was just never really in my path. I think maybe just from the environment I came up with, I always wanted to go OHL, and I never really stopped. I'm sure you'll get into it after, but ended up being able to do that for a year. But even that was an unconventional route there. Like I said, I never got drafted, which was a disappointment for me, but like for everyone. Um, I actually, the way I got there was I just wrote an email, personal email to every team in the O, and hoped I'd get a response. Got maybe 2, 3 responses back. And I would remember I was driving one day, and actually it was Doug Gilmore gave me a call and said, "Hey, you want to come for a walkout or a walk-on tryout with Kingston?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And that's kind of how I got on there.
It's pretty crazy that yeah, like just emailing everybody and just, what are the chances of you getting a reply, right? And Dougie
Yeah,
obviously reached out to you.
yeah. I think
Um,
actually I sent out some. I think I sent out emails to some Q teams, to some Dub teams. Just thought, hey, Worst they're going to say is no, or worst thing is they're just not going to reply, right? So like I said, a couple I got a nice response saying, "Hey, no, we're good in that position, but thanks anyway." And then yeah, I thought, hey, I just need one, and see what happens.
And as you said, kind of unconventional, right? Like you're going to the OHL your first year at, 19 turning 20. So
Yeah.
some people would say that's pretty late. But for you, like just how was that? Like you obviously, only played 1 year OHL, but how was that experience, making that jump after coming from junior B?
It was good. I definitely learned a lot. Um, I maybe didn't get as many chances to play as or maybe a bit of a shorter leash than say a kid coming in at 16, 17, where they know, okay, he's gonna develop, play a little bit more each year, and then kind of prime him to be the starting guy. Like you said, I came in pretty late and as a free agent, not really um, much in the bag, and we had an overage goalie, which was Morrison. That's where I met him. Um, so he obviously, he was an overage guy. He's going to play most of the games. I think at the end with starting and relief games, I think I had about 20 games there. Um, and then ended up getting in. We got swept by Barrie that year, first round, but they were a pretty strong team. And I think I got into 2 of the 4 games there. So I had a little bit experience, but it was definitely a bit of an eye opener in terms of level of play, right? Like going from playing those what they would call development years in junior B, and then jump right up with guys that are 16 and going to be studs, and guys that have been in the league for already 3 years, right? That kind of know the gameplay, know the rinks. Everything was pretty foreign to me, but overall, it was a great experience. I'm happy I had it. I was really pushing for the OA year, but I totally understood. At that time, I think they only had 3 or 4 OA spots available, so it would have been a pretty big gamble for a team to take someone like me. Um, but even there, then it's you hope for something. Uh, it ended up being I went back to junior B and had a great year with Caledonia, and we ended up winning the championship. First and so far only one that I've had. So uh, it was definitely the right decision, and definitely didn't stop my desire, let's say.
Well, first, just to comment on that Barrie team, I'm pretty sure Matthias Niederberger was their goalie that year,
Yeah,
and he's become a German stud. I think he's
yeah.
won 2 or 3 championships in a row, just lost in the finals to Canada at the World Championships. So their team was pretty good that year. I remember, I think they lost to London in the finals, if I remember correctly.
They
Um,
were Niederberger, Scheifele, Ekblad, Athanasiou, Kamara, like real solid team. So
mhm.
they were definitely the favorites to win, and but I was just happy to get in. No, not happy to get in a couple games. Looking back, I am, but at the time, it's like I only get in if we're getting pumped, right? So
Yeah. But just as you said, so after that year, obviously, you don't get to stay, so you gotta, go down to your overage year. So this is again a point I'm trying to make to people is I'm sure there was people in your life, or maybe through other people being like, okay, Colin, enjoy your junior B year. You ruined your eligibility for NCAA, blah, blah, blah. So you're gonna go CIS, and that's gonna be the end of it if you choose to do that. And this is where I feel like you just kind of persevered, like you put your head down. I remember that summer, to be honest, just training with you, like you were in a different mindset. Um, and you go down to Caledonia, you guys have a good team, you put up solid numbers. Basically, if you include your OT loss, I think, or maybe it's a tie, but like you had 5 losses the whole year, including playoffs. So like, you know, basically have a year, really put your foot forward, and then eventually you take that on to CIS. But I can honestly argue, like, if you don't maybe stay that year and take that maybe little step back to kind of just reset yourself, like you could argue maybe it doesn't happen, right? Like maybe you don't walk into CIS and put up solid numbers for 3 years like you did.
Yeah, it was like a big decision whether to come back and, for example, stay in the conference that I had played in before. I was kind of in between a good team there and a good team in the Golden Horseshoe division there. Um, and for me, it was, I knew, okay, going to junior B, if you've played even 1 year or even half a season in the OHL, you have more options, right? Um, so I decided to change it up. I knew Caledonia was always a solid team. They used to be Brantford, so same owners and everything like that. And so I decided to go there. Um, just a new, like I said, change of scenery and worked out. But even there, I would say I made some mistakes in terms of CIS. Like early on, our coach said, "Hey, there's some guys trying to recruit. Um, are you interested?" I never had any interest in school, so I said no, and I turned down any recruiting visits. So again, maybe a little bit hard headed, but uh, I also took an unconventional route, I'd say, to CIS.
Yeah, I mean, you started obviously in the briefly for the Halton Ravens in the GMHL, which was I believe at that time couple seasons into their existence, or maybe that was their first year. I can't remember, but it was like a startup junior league in a sense. And the benefit of that, I believe, was you could play as a 21-year-old turning 22. And in most leagues, as soon as you're going into that turning 21 year, that's your last year. And um, evidently you end up getting to Wilfrid Laurier and playing basically three and a half seasons, I would say there. But your 3 years fully there, like this is where you see the progress, which I think started in that Caledonia year, where you have the 921, the 928, the 927 save percentage, and kind of just putting up a solid base, showing guys, and eventually now into your pro career, like showing people who would look at elite prospects, because that's what half of Europe does in terms of scouting.
Yeah.
They would see, okay, this guy can stop pucks. So like how just explain overall like how your experience was, at Wilfrid Laurier for those 3 years.
Had a really good experience. Like I said, the way to get there was pretty similar. I didn't take these recruitments, sent out some emails, and they were the closest team pretty much to me. And I knew they had some goalie injuries before, so when I went in there, it was kind of in relief of a guy. And then through the year, it was always a battle. Our coach really believed in having 2, 3 goalies, which I think is fairly common in the CIS. A lot of guys, XOHL guys, WHL guys, top junior B guys. So it was always like every day was okay. Who plays better is gonna carry on with it. And so of course, there's sometimes you say, nah, I'm playing well, and they go with the other guy. It's just the way it is. But I think it's also a development thing where you say, okay, I got to be not just good in my last game. I got to be good Monday at practice. I got to be good Tuesday at practice. You got to be good every practice to show, hey, put me in. I'm ready to go the next game. Whether it be a Thursday or a Saturday. Um, and then when it's game time, you play. If you're playing well in practice all week, it usually translates to the game. If you're dogging it Monday, Tuesday, and just saying, you're going to play. Um, so for me, I like that. Sometimes maybe I felt that was a little unfair, but in the end, I think it's kind of instilled that competition with your teammates. And I mean, I always had really great goalie partners there. Good goalies, good people. So it was, strictly an on ice battle, but um, yeah, I think it really prepared me to try to push forward. And I knew in the past, like CIS, say 10 years ago, it was kind of seen as that. Like, yeah, you go there, it's guys that just want to play, 3, 4 extra years of hockey. get a degree and start their life, right? But I noticed in the last, I'd say for sure, my last 2 years there, you saw guys that you could see they want to improve, they want to get better, they want to move on. And once you started seeing, mostly from the out east teams, you see guys getting into the coast, some of the top guys going up, getting A contracts, and guys going to Europe. You're like, okay, it's possible if you do well, work hard, and um, it's not just a means to an end, just to continue having fun. So for me, that was a big thing, like seeing other people get that opportunity, whether you want to go to the coast or the A, or if you want to come over to Europe and try to start a career there. Um, you saw that, okay, this league is a bit more well respected than it used to be, and you know brings better players too. Um, it's never bad to have some schooling under your belt, and so for me, it was more of a stepping stone once again. And I always knew I wanted to. My goal was always to come somewhere in Europe. Personally, I didn't really care where. I kind of took the same mentality, like you got to work your way up. If you start one country, one league, you do well, someone's going to notice. You can build up from there. So I've always been a believer of the working man's way, let's say.
Yeah, you definitely there's no easy path, and yours definitely hasn't been easy whatsoever. You basically answered one of the questions I want to talk about was how CIS
Okay.
was viewed back then, and you basically answered it. But I think, I had Mike Uzis on, another goalie, real early, and he was in school, before us, and even I think it had a worse like kind of reputation back then, where maybe like one guy or a couple guys get out. Where I think the years you were in school, you could start to see like, they wanted to start, I don't want to say rivaling NCAA, but they didn't want to be so far, below in terms of like producing guys out. Like, because there are late bloomers in hockey, like just because, you play 4 years in the O, and, maybe you have average numbers or you only have good numbers your last year because you're playing against 16, 17-year-olds, and at that point you're 20. They still can have guys who do improve every day, like you said, want to get better, and then they end up signing deals in the coast, AHL, or high leagues in Europe. And I think that's good to see because it just creates a bigger pool of players who are blooming. And I think that's good for European hockey because it doesn't force them to be like, hey, we only got to look at this league. Like, these are the leagues we got to take from, because there could be a diamond in the rough somewhere else. And some teams will explore that and some teams won't, but that's just hockey. So after school, you go right to the Alps HL. So this, I would say, it's basically like, I don't even know how to say it, like the 1.5 league in Italy, because the top league, which is technically like 5 countries, the ICHL, like they have I believe 3 Italian teams now, and
Now,
so one question I had for you was kind of like myself, like as soon as I was done school, I'm like, I'm going to Europe. Like, there was never a thought of North America. Like, were you kind of on the same page? Like, hey, I don't want to do this grind as an undrafted goalie in the coast or SPHL. Like, I would rather just go over to Europe, like see what it's all about.
yeah, I kind of had that a little bit earlier, I'd say, like before I even thought of, okay, school is the best option for me here. I tried to do straight from junior. I went down to a few teams in the States for like coast tryouts, kind of like walk on tryouts, and one in the SB as well. None of them worked out. They said, a couple teams said, oh, we like you, but still a young guy and this and that. And that's kind of how I had that half-year hiatus in the GMHL, because I was searching for a team, and it didn't work out for me. So by the time I was finished school, um, I didn't really have a lot of desire to, like you said, do the grind. Moving 3, 4 teams a year, you could post 3 shutouts in a row, and if they get a contract guy come down, I mean, it's kind of thanks, sorry. You can move around. You could be out of a job real quick. Um, it's it is a bit of a grind. So I thought I've always heard good things about Europe. I knew in the end that's where I'd like to end up anyway. Um, so you get the classic. I'd never been to Europe before. You get your flight paid for. They give you an apartment, and you're making money playing hockey. So for me, it was I could have returned one more year. That was actually my plan, was to return one more year to Laurier. And then I got this offer from Brunico, and I thought might not get this offer again. So I got to take it. It was kind of a no brainer. Um, and since then, yeah, it's been 5 years now. It's gone pretty quick, but definitely still enjoying it and still trying to push forward.
Well, I would have to say, first year pro didn't look hard for you just based on your numbers. I mean, 1.3 goals against, basically a 950 save percentage. Your first year pro, 32-3, not a big deal. But yeah, so like kind of you said, like there was that debate to go back, but I think you made the right decision. And, just seeing your career, like you've been on two different teams and everywhere you go, like it, if you look at since your first year of Wilfrid Laurier, your first year, so 15-16, like this is what, like for me when I'm looking at goalies, like this is what I look at. So 921, 928, 927, 948, 935, 927, 928, 915. So you're consistently 91 save percentage, 92 save percentage. Obviously, there's an outlier there with a nine, basically a 995. But so for me, that shows a goalie that shows consistency. That's a guy that's gonna give you a chance to win every night. He's gonna make all the saves he's supposed to, and then also probably some he shouldn't. And um, there was another goalie I had on that I mentioned before, Kevin Carr. Like he was the same way in college. Like we played against each other in D3. I was on a better team, but his team would get 30, 40 shots a night, but he was consistently putting up those save percentages, and then he did it, and he's been doing it in pro ever since. And like to me, it's just like I see those goalies, and I'm like, okay, like to me that there's a history, there's the path, right? Like you can see it's not like where you have a goalie who has a 950 and then the next 2 years he's 88, 88 or something. Like you can see there's a base there. So for yourself, I just want to say like, congratulations, like all the hard work you've put in. Like it's clear that when you've put up, whatever it is, 8 years in a row of 91 save percentage or better, like that shows that, hey, well, all this BS I was going through when I was 19 or 18 years old, like look at where it took me now, you know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, it's of course with some of those crazy save percentages. I mean, I was fortunate my first year pro to have like we were a really strong team. We were like a first place team. I think it helped actually. We did give up some good chances against and things like that. So it wasn't like how we spoke about before in minor hockey with you're getting 10, 12 a game. At least I'd be getting around mid 20s to mid 30s. When you played some of the other good teams, a lot more even. But I was definitely fortunate to come to a strong team to start off, and I think it built my confidence up too, and said, okay, like I can play here. Um, there was not self doubt every game. Like we were going to win, and if we didn't win, it was a problem. So and I kind of then, like you said, I switched teams. We were about the last 2 years I played. We were about a mid-range team, so maybe not so strong defensively, not as many top guys, but just knowing, hey, we're playing the best team now. I can play in this league. I can make saves. It kind of instilled that into me mentally. Like you don't have to worry about who they got or what they can do. You just do what you can do, play the way you can, and I mean things are going to happen. I remember when we trained together, it was hard to get through my head at one point that you can do everything right and let a goal in. You can get a bad bounce. You could play the perfect game and allow two and lose. It's kind of just like you said, trying to be consistent, saying, okay, I'm going to make the saves I can or have to make, and a couple extra, and And in my opinion, that's a good game, and I think from the coaches I've had, they would agree, as long as you make the saves that you're supposed to, anything else is a bonus. So you're not a one man show out there. It's a team game, obviously. So you're only as good as the guys around you, and I feel like mentally as well. If you put yourself in a spot where guys take it serious and guys care, that makes all the difference in the world.
No, 100% agree. Just kind of going back to that mental part of it, I think that's also a really important topic is, some goalies and we've all like, you said it was sometimes hard for you to wrap around it, was sometimes hard for me to wrap around it. You know, Me personally, I was known as in games, a pretty mentally strong guy, but there's still always improvements you can make, always new things you can learn, new ways to think about the game. But like you said, like you can do a play perfect. You can play it the perfect way and you're going to beat, whether it's by another player just making a good shot, perfect shot, or, hits off somebody goes in. And then there's ones where you're totally out of position, done everything wrong, and they're going to miss the net or you're going to get lucky. And I think if more people realize that if you're doing good things more times than not, you're going to be rewarded for that. Like I always say, hard work pays off. Good things happen to good people. So, that's a perfect instance, and we would both agree that we've smashed some sticks during some training sessions for frustrations and
Yeah, more than a
um
couple.
just a couple. But just for the kids out there listening, goalie, player, doesn't matter. Like you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days, but it's all part of the process. And I think the biggest thing I've learned is how do you, for the next play or the next day, forget about what just happened. And I think the quicker you can realize how to do that, how to let go of, letting in a goal or making a bad pass or whatever, that's what really improves your mental game going forward because the best players in the world, like the best goalies, like they get scored on, you don't know they got scored on because
Yeah,
it's done. It's you can't do anything, can't change it. One thing I want to bring up, so we're back to just how I brought up we've trained together. So Franco-Canadian goalie school. So the Franco brothers, Dave and Marco, that's kind of where we met each other. They're out of Vaughn, Ontario. They have their goalie school. Pretty fun camps, to be quite honest. Goalie games were the best. But just kind of talk about like how they really, you started working with them and how they really helped your game evolve to where it is today.
yeah. So I met them first in Kingston. So like I said, coming in, new guy. I think they had a lot of work on their hands because I would say back then my mental game wasn't maybe as good as I thought it was or as good as it needed to be. Um, so they still make fun of me a little bit for how many questions I ask, and I'm personally a guy that likes to talk through things. So they'd give me the gears a little bit about, hey, we got to get back to the drills, not always talking about it. But that one thing they really taught me was short memory. If we put all the technical things, they've taught me a lot of technical work through the first couple of years that we worked together, and they're always very, very, very good to me, still are. But they really taught me kind of how to calm down, how to forget a play, or when to stress about something, when not to. Like you had mentioned there, you can do everything right, goal goes in, thinking about it's not gonna change it. You just got to suck it up, admit it. You can play the play over in your head one time, but then it's done. Pretend it never happened and move on to the next one, right? It's so for me, they were kind of like a mental rock there for me. Teaching me some stuff from their experience. Got to work with a lot of other really good goalies, and so I get to watch some other guys, that are playing at levels that I wanted to play at. So you kind of see the practice habits, you see the mental strength, you see different routines, and you just learn through that. And yeah, I always enjoyed working with them. They're like I said, they've always been really good to me, and helped my game a lot, and just great guys that will do anything for the people that are with them, and so definitely got to thank them for a lot of the success I've had. They really helped my mental game, and then of course that helps your physical game, right? The more you can calm down, the more centered you can be. You can just focus on playing, not so much about all the other things floating around your head.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. They're special people. Sometimes it's hard to have a serious conversation with them because there's just so many chirps or jokes being thrown around and their stories are hilarious. But they really do, like I think as you said, they identified what maybe one or two things that could help your game that you need to adjust. Me, it was the same thing. And without them, I don't think either of us would have had the careers we had or played as long as we have so far. So definitely any goalies listening, if you want any goalie coaching, goalie schools in the summers and you're in the GTA area, make your way out to Vaughn. These guys are been doing it for years, been doing it right. Had guys like Curtis Joseph go through them, Rob Zepp, who a longtime German goalie, played AHL as well. But Zepper, played 7 years in the DEL and won 5 championships, so not a big deal. And another guy was Adam Dennis, Jamie Storr. Dennis is now the GM in North Bay. I believe Storzy obviously had an NHL career. So they've been able to produce some guys out there. Bennington started there. So yeah, I mean their resume speaks for itself. Transitioning back to you, what's your plans like? So how long do you see yourself playing, and do you have any plans eventually for after hockey when eventually we all have to transition out of playing?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of how long I'd like to play, as long as my body can hold up and someone wants to sign me, I'd like to play as long as I can. I love the game and I love the lifestyle. Being a hockey player is, since I was a kid, that's all I ever wanted to be. So, um, fortunate enough that it's taken me this far. Um, Now, yeah, my life's looks a little different. Met a girl here my first year over, got married to her, so now we have a son, and so I'll be definitely over in this area probably the rest of my life. Hockey, ideally, I'd like to play into my late 30s if it's possible, but said you never know. Uh, After hockey, it's a good question, man. I'm still trying to figure that one out. Something over here, I don't know. I always wanted to be thought it would be cool to be an English teacher, not so much like English back home there, but like I've obviously met a lot of people over here that maybe English is not so strong or it's their third, fourth language, and I don't know. I kind of always enjoyed, you know, maybe not giving back in the hockey sense, but giving back something to people and seeing joy that it brings them, just like it brings me joy, to improve at hockey, and other people brings them joy to learn something new and to make people happy. So it's definitely a possibility over here. So that's kind of up in the air, but time will tell, I guess.
Yeah, play as long as you can. I'll tell you that right now. If I could still be playing, I would be doing it because the real world is another thing. The real world sucks, as a lot of people say. It's an adjustment, I think, for a lot of hockey players just because of the life you've grown up in and your day to day. But yeah, and then for after hockey, like I think that'd be cool. Like someone like yourself who's living in plan is to live in Italy and could teach, young kids, get back to them like that. Like that sounds like a great plan, but I think you'll be playing, at least into your mid 30s. So I think you got some time to set up that stuff for after your career. So don't stress about it.
Fingers
Um,
crossed, man.
but all right, two more questions for you. So um when you look back at the career you've had so far, it's still obviously ongoing, so it's not finished yet. Did you think honestly you would have had the path you've had or the career you've had?
Definitely never thought I'd have the path I had. I pictured myself trying to have the storybook type of line. Like
Playing for the
every kid,
Toronto Maple Leafs, yeah.
Toronto Maple Leafs, maybe World Juniors, things like that. But I learned a lot from the path I've taken. I've met a lot of great people, a lot of good friends through that path, and um, I don't think I would change it now. And up to this current point, like I said, I took this path, and it's led me to my now family. So everything. I think everything happens for a reason. Um, it's maybe not as you planned, but in the end, if you're determined and you're passionate, it'll work out in a way that's right for you. Not everyone's meant to be star NHL player, but it doesn't mean you can't have a nice life, a nice career, playing the game you love. In one way or another.
I'm happy
And
you said that because a lot of people like the it's I've said this before on the podcast, I'm sure I'll say it 1,000 times more, is the determination of success is different for, or the definition is different for person to person. Like, yeah, there's people who go and have an NHL career. Great for them. Like, happy for them. But someone like yourself who's now played 5, 6 years in Italy, persevered through a lot. Like to me, that's success in its own right. And it doesn't, like as you said, it doesn't mean that, you know, there's only one storybook ending to having success. So I'm happy you said that, and I hope that the younger generation does realize that because unfortunately the NHL dream, it doesn't happen for a lot of people. The percentage is low. You can dream of it all you want, have those goals, work your butt off to get there, but there's alternatives too to where, go have a long career in Europe or, maybe you do CIS and then you get into the work world and be successful there. Like there's so many avenues. And I stress that so much because I hate hearing when kids are like, hey, I didn't get drafted the O, or hey, I didn't get drafted NHL. Like, it's over for me. Like, well, no, I mean, if you want to keep going, then create your own path, create your own journey to what you find successful. And like for myself, like a goal of mine was always to play in the Del 2, and I got to do it. I got to play in the finals of the Del 2. So like, yeah, do I wish I was still playing? Sure. But I also think I had a successful career for a lot of the obstacles I went through. And now, as you said, like kind of like you, I've met someone in Germany starting a life there. So it's, I wouldn't change it for a thing either. Uh,
exactly, yeah, it all works out how it's supposed to in the end. So if, like I said, if you want it, if you really want it, you'll work for it, and whatever's meant to be will find you.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And then last one here. What is maybe one piece of advice, or if you have a couple multiple pieces of advice you would give your younger self? So if you were telling your younger self, so Colin Furlong at 16, 17 years old, giving some advice, what would you say?
Well, I definitely start off with don't be a perfectionist. It's not a good trait for a goalie. In some aspects, it is, um, but just I would say trust yourself and be yourself. I remember when I was younger, I always wanted to be like someone else, to play like someone else, and then you're not playing your game. You're thinking about. I mean, I'm sure you remember this. Thinking about your stance, thinking about your footwork and how you look. It doesn't matter how your style is your style. Your game is your game. Play to your strengths. Believe in it, and just I'd say keep working hard, and you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you are you for a reason. So I think, as you said, everybody's got their own stance or their own traits, that defines them. So Um, well, I appreciate you taking the time. Before we went on video here, you were changing a diaper, so new dad life. So I
Yeah,
appreciate you taking the time, man, sharing your story with us. And
thanks
yeah,
for having me,
best of
man.
luck, best of luck in Italy, and we'll stay in touch, yeah.
Yeah, sounds good, buddy. Thanks for having me on, eh?
And that wraps up another episode here of the Pro Hockey Pod. Until next time, cheers and ciao.